forth. Indecision. Is it really so bad? I could go either way. These are characteristics that you may have traditionally perceived as negative. But is it so? This morning, I'd like you to consider some ideas that may challenge or reinforce the position that you have taken, if you are so bold to take one. To help you see things my way, I will share a couple personal experiences, an ancient tale, and some current research. Let's begin with my personal experiences. While not lucrative, the genesis of this topic. I found it to be true that some people have an opinion 100% of the time. If this is you, you most likely admire these confident, decisive attributes. If there's a question, you have an answer. If there's a fence to be on, you are 3 fields in. I used to report to 2 bosses. While they didn't agree on much, I was often able to appreciate and wholeheartedly agree with their differing positions. I didn't realize how internally opposed I could be until it was me in the position having to make these decisions. Recently at work, colleagues have asked me for direction in a number of issues. My responses may start out headed one direction, but by mid-sentence, I can see why the opposite might be a completely appropriate answer as well. I found this to be not helpful to my coworkers. They're looking for an answer, not an internal dialogue. At times I have felt like a reed in the wind. I can honestly get on board 100% with differing arguments as they present themselves, and then a 180-degree turn, leaning back towards the other way. The oak and the reed is one of Aesop's fables, which has been reinvented numerous times. As the story goes, the tree taunts the reed for its frailty and yielding to every wind, but the reed does not answer back. The wisdom of its behavior becomes apparent when the tree is snapped in the buffeting of a storm. A Chinese proverb says, "A tree that is unbending is easily broken." As someone who can relate to the reed in the wind, this does provide some comfort. Mm-hmm. There is strength in being able to change. An example of this is in politics. Yeah. Leaders who flip-flop are often painted in poor light. General distrust of elected officials is most likely to blame for this, and it's their own fault. But perhaps we should allow them some movement on their part. On the topic, an economist said, "When the facts change, I change my mind." The challenge with opinions is their subjectivity. They are viewpoints and judgments that are based upon an individual's interpretation of the facts. I dug into what the science says about making decisions, specifically as it relates to empathy. Simply put, empathy is the capacity to place oneself in another person's shoes. This is important as decisions and opinions often involve other humans. One of the studies involved 2 groups of people, those who hadn't started exercising yet and those who had just finished a vigorous 20-minute cardiovascular workout. People in both groups were asked to read a story about hikers who got lost in the woods without food or water. Then they were asked to imagine how the hikers felt. Which would be more unpleasant, hunger or thirst? The participants' answers depended on how thirsty they were at the time. Compared to people who hadn't begun exercising, the people who had just finished and who were hotter and thirstier as a result were more likely to rate thirst as more unpleasant than hunger. This and a number of other studies suggest that we seem to project what we are feeling on other people. This may seem obvious when you hear it, but the intriguing part is in reality, people's behavior doesn't show that they know it. Conscious awareness of this empathy gap does provide a small advantage, but it is an intentional process. At the end of the day, A decision must be made, and an opinion must be given. Perhaps it isn't so bad to spend some time on both sides of the fence. At work, I plan on keeping that dialogue internal and providing a confident answer. At play, I think I'll keep my flip-flop nature, ever mindful of that empathy gap. And at home, I will keep my opinions to, yes, dear. Of course I agree. Because I really do.